Emma stood by the window of her small apartment and looked at the evening sky. The sun had almost disappeared, leaving behind beautiful shades of orange and pink. Her heart was beating faster than usual. Tonight was special. After many months of talking, laughing, and getting to know each other, she was finally going to spend an entire evening with Daniel. She checked the clock for the third time in 10 minutes. Everything in her apartment was clean and organized. She had prepared dinner, arranged fresh flowers on the table, and lit a few candles to create a warm atmosphere. Even though she had planned everything carefully, she still felt nervous. A soft knock on the door made her jump slightly. She took a deep breath and opened the door. Daniel stood there with a gentle smile on his face. He was holding a small bouquet of white flowers. "Hi, Emma," he said. "Hi, Daniel. Come in." For a moment, both of them felt shy. They had spent countless hours talking on the phone and sending messages, but meeting like this felt different. It felt more real. Daniel handed her the flowers. "These are for you." Emma smiled warmly. "They're beautiful. Thank you." As Daniel entered the apartment, he looked around. "Everything looks amazing." Emma laughed softly. "I may have spent too much time preparing. I can tell, but I like it." The tension between them slowly began to disappear. They sat at the dining table and started eating dinner. At first, the conversation was simple. They talked about work, family, and their plans for the upcoming week. Soon, however, the conversation became deeper. Daniel told Emma stories from his childhood. He spoke about growing up in a small town, riding his bicycle through quiet streets, and dreaming about traveling the world. Emma listened carefully. "I never knew that about you," she said. "There are still many things you don't know." She smiled. "Then keep talking." For the next hour, Daniel shared memories that he had never told anyone else. Emma did the same. She spoke about her fears, her ambitions, and the challenges she had faced throughout her life. The more they talked, the more comfortable they became. After dinner, they moved to the balcony. The night air was cool and refreshing. Above them, hundreds of stars sparkled in the dark sky. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence felt peaceful rather than awkward. "It's beautiful tonight," Emma finally said. Daniel looked up. "It really is." Then he glanced at her. "But I think the view is even better from here." Emma laughed and looked away, slightly embarrassed. "You always know what to say." "Not always." "Really?" Daniel nodded. "Actually, I was nervous about tonight." Emma looked surprised. "You were very nervous." She smiled. "Good. I thought I was the only one." Both of them laughed. That simple confession made them feel even closer. As the evening continued, they talked about their dreams. Daniel wanted to start his own business one day. He dreamed of creating something meaningful that could help people. Emma wanted to write a book. She had always loved stories but had never found the courage to share her writing with others. "You should do it," Daniel said. "What if people don't like it? What if they do?" Emma thought about his words. No one had ever encouraged her quite like that before. The conversation continued for hours. They spoke about places they wanted to visit. Paris, Tokyo, Rome, New York. They imagined walking through unfamiliar streets, trying new foods, and creating memories together. At one point, Daniel pointed toward the sky. "Look." A shooting star crossed the darkness for just a second. Emma gasped. "Did you see that?" "Yes." "Make a wish." Daniel smiled. "If I tell you, it won't come true." Emma closed her eyes and silently made her own wish. When she opened them, she noticed Daniel watching her. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. You were staring." "Maybe." Emma shook her head and laughed. The night seemed to move faster than either of them expected. Hours passed like minutes. At some point, they moved back inside and sat on the couch. The candles were still glowing softly. The room felt warm and comfortable. Daniel looked around. "This has been one of the best nights I've had in a long time." Emma smiled. "Me too." They sat quietly for a moment. Neither of them wanted the evening to end. There was something special about sharing honest conversations without distractions. No phones. No interruptions. Just two people getting to know each other better. Daniel finally broke the silence. "You know, when we first met, I never expected any of this." Emma looked at him. "Neither did I. I thought we would talk for a few days and then move on with our lives." "So did I. But here we are. Here we are." The simplicity of those words made both of them smile. Outside, the city had become quiet. Most people were already asleep. The world seemed peaceful. Emma leaned back and looked toward the window. The stars were still visible. I don't want tonight to end, she admitted. Daniel nodded. I know what you mean. For a moment, they simply enjoyed being together. No pressure, no expectations, just comfort and understanding. Emma realized something important. The reason she felt so happy wasn't because the evening was perfect. It was because she could be herself. She didn't need to pretend. She didn't need to impress anyone. Daniel accepted her exactly as she was. Perhaps Daniel felt the same way. The connection between them felt genuine. As midnight approached, they continued talking softly. They discussed books, music, favorite memories, and future hopes. Every conversation revealed another piece of who they were. The night that had started with nervous smiles had transformed into something unforgettable. By the time they finally noticed how late it was, neither of them could believe how quickly the hours had passed. Emma looked at the clock and laughed. We've been talking all night. Daniel smiled. And I still feel like we have more to say. The stars shone brightly outside while a calm silence filled the room. It was a silence filled with trust, warmth, and new beginnings. Neither of them knew exactly what the future would bring. But one thing was certain. Their first evening together had become a memory they would carry with them for a very long time. The first light of morning slowly entered the room through the curtains. Emma opened her eyes and smiled as she remembered the wonderful evening she had shared with Daniel. The night had passed more quickly than either of them expected. Hours of conversation, laughter, and honest moments had created a memory that already felt special. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the city was beginning to wake up. Birds sang softly from nearby trees, and the streets slowly filled with the sounds of a new day. Emma walked to the kitchen and started preparing breakfast. As she poured coffee into 2 cups, she thought about everything they had talked about the night before. For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about the future. A few minutes later, Daniel entered the kitchen. Good morning, he said with a sleepy smile. Good morning. You woke up early. I couldn't sleep anymore. Daniel laughed. Neither could I. Emma handed him a cup of coffee. Here, thank you. They sat at the small table near the window. The sunlight filled the room with warmth. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt comfortable. It was different from the nervous silence they had shared when Daniel first arrived the night before. Now there was a sense of familiarity between them. Daniel looked outside. It feels strange. What does? The fact that we talked almost all night. Emma smiled. And yet it doesn't feel like enough. Exactly. Both of them laughed. Emma took a sip of coffee and looked at Daniel. Can I ask you something? Of course. What was your favorite part of last night? Daniel thought for a moment. There were a lot of good moments. But if you had to choose one. He smiled. I think it was when we sat on the balcony looking at the stars. Emma nodded. I liked that part too. It felt peaceful. It did. Daniel looked at her carefully. What about you? Emma considered the question. My favorite part was hearing your stories. My stories. Yes. The real stories. Not the usual ones people tell when they're trying to impress someone. Daniel laughed. Are you saying I usually try to impress people? Maybe a little. He shook his head. Fair enough. The conversation continued naturally. As they talked, they realized how comfortable they had become with each other. There was no need to hide their thoughts. No need to pretend. For the first time, both of them felt completely understood. After breakfast, they decided to take a walk. The morning air was fresh and cool. People were beginning their daily routines. Some were jogging, others were walking their dogs, and a few sat at outdoor cafes enjoying breakfast. Emma and Daniel walked slowly through a nearby park. The grass sparkled with drops of morning dew. Children laughed as they played near a small fountain. The simple beauty of the morning made everything feel peaceful. Daniel suddenly stopped walking. Emma looked at him. What happened? Nothing. Then why did you stop? Daniel smiled. I just wanted to remember this moment. Emma looked around. The park, the morning, and being here with you. Emma felt her cheeks grow warm. You can be surprisingly romantic sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, more often than sometimes. They continued walking. As they reached a quiet path lined with trees, the conversation became more serious. Daniel looked ahead. Can I tell you something important? Of course. I've spent a lot of time thinking about my future. Emma listened carefully. I always thought success would make me happy. And now, I still want to achieve my goals. But, But I've realized that success means very little if you don't have people to share it with. Emma remained silent. Daniel continued. The older I get, the more I understand that relationships matter. Emma nodded slowly. I feel the same way. She looked down at the path beneath her feet. For a long time, I focused only on work. I know. I thought that if I worked hard enough, everything else would eventually fall into place. And did it? Emma smiled sadly. Not really. Daniel understood exactly what she meant. Many people spent years chasing goals without realizing that happiness often came from the connections they built along the way. They walked quietly for a few minutes. Then Emma spoke again. I think that's why last night felt so special. Why? Because it wasn't about achievements or plans. It wasn't. It was just two people being honest. Daniel nodded. You're right. The morning sun continued to rise higher in the sky. The park grew busier as more people arrived. Despite the activity around them, Emma and Daniel felt as though they were in their own world. Eventually they found an empty bench beneath a large tree. They sat down. The leaves moved gently in the breeze above them. Daniel looked thoughtful. What are you thinking about? Emma asked. The future. That's a big topic. It is. Emma smiled. What about the future? Daniel took a deep breath. I don't know exactly what will happen. Neither do I. But I know one thing. What? I'm glad you're part of it. Emma felt a wave of emotion. She had spent years hoping to find someone who truly understood her. Someone she could trust. Someone who made ordinary moments feel meaningful. Sitting beside Daniel, she felt closer to that dream than ever before. Thank you, she said softly. Daniel smiled. For what? For being honest. Always. Emma looked into his eyes. Then I'll be honest too. I'm listening. I'm glad you're part of my future as well. Daniel's smile grew wider. Neither of them needed dramatic promises. Neither of them needed grand speeches. The simple truth was enough. As the afternoon approached, they slowly walked back toward Emma's apartment. Neither of them wanted the day to end. But both knew that life would soon return to its normal rhythm. Work, responsibilities, schedules. Yet something had changed. The connection between them felt stronger. More real. When they finally reached the apartment building, they stopped near the entrance. Daniel looked at Emma. I had an amazing time. So did I. This won't be our last adventure. Emma laughed. I certainly hope not. Daniel extended his hand playfully. Then let's make a deal. A deal? Yes. Emma shook his hand. Okay. What's the deal? No matter what happens, we stay honest with each other. Emma nodded. I like that. And we support each other's dreams. Agreed. And we keep making memories. Emma smiled. Definitely agreed. They released their hands. The promise felt simple, yet it carried real meaning. Neither of them could predict the future. Life was unpredictable. Challenges would come. Difficult days would arrive. But they had built something important. Trust, understanding, friendship, and perhaps something even deeper. As Daniel prepared to leave, Emma watched him for a moment. The nervous strangers who had begun the evening together were gone. In their place stood two people connected by shared experiences and genuine affection. Daniel smiled one last time. See you soon. Emma smiled back. Very soon. As he walked away, she felt a sense of happiness she hadn't experienced in a long time. The previous night had been beautiful. The morning had been unforgettable. But what excited her most was not what had already happened. It was the possibility of everything still to come. For the first time, the future felt bright. And both of them looked forward to writing the next chapter of their story together. Heart.